And then I like to compare the swine flu crisis, this pandemic, real quick with tuberculosis. Tuberculosis used to be a big deal. It's not as big a deal anymore, but it's still alive and well in America. Part of tuberculosis' problem is you get it when you're in an enclosed space with a lot of people who aren't too clean, who don't have good grooming habits, who are kind of sickly. It is still a problem in America, and it's pretty expensive to treat. You're on antibiotics for 6 to 8 months. You're hospitalized for at least 2 to 3 months. It's a pretty big deal.
Wasn't it almost eradicated?
It was almost eradicated, and then it came back with a vengeance.
Because of foreign people coming in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it came back with a vengeance, and we I can't think of them right now, but the antibiotics that we used to treat with would no longer work. The tuberculosis had actually developed a resistance to standard antibiotics, and now it's used something even more stronger and more expensive to cure it. And in 2008, 1.7 million people died from tuberculosis. Well, and we're going to compare that now to the 500 deaths so far and 80,000 people infected with the swine flu. To me, tuberculosis is more of a threat than the swine flu right now, especially when you compare it with the 76 swine flu.
And while you're talking about the pharmaceutical companies, all that stuff, I just wanted to, you already know, the patent for the H1N1 was received, they got the patent in August of 2008. And when does the swine flu start? End of March or April this year when you started. How did you get a patent for something that didn't exist and you didn't know about it? And I think in a way, that kind of may or may not tie into the mist, because I don't think everybody kind of jumped on board the whole swine flu thing like they were hoping, because they put the mist out before the shots. So what a way to really spread your virus. If that was your plan, because like I said, I have a weak immune system. I don't have a spleen, so walking around I'm more susceptible to catch something. So that's a way to do it. And like he was saying too, well, 15,000 people died from the regular flu last year. So these people that may or may, like he said 500, but like you said, they're testing. There's really no good way to test it.
That's what we were talking about. You can't really verify.
Right. So when you hear on TV, oh, this guy died today from the swine flu, this guy, you don't know what they really died from. You don't know that they died from the actual H1N1. So it could have just been the regular flu. So like he said, the mainstream media just reports and says what they want you to hear, and a lot of people are just, oh, okay, that's the thing. And if at some point they try to make the shot mandatory, how many people are really going to want to go get that shot?
All that being said, I'm not saying the swine flu virus isn't real or isn't dangerous. I've taken care of, my guess is maybe 80 to 100 or so people positive for flu A, which we were talking about, either the bird flu or it is the swine flu, according to what we were talking about earlier. So I've taken care of swine flu patients. I'm fine. All I've done is wash my hands, extra vitamin C, vitamin D, infrequently. I don't take it every day. That way my body doesn't get used to it. Don't touch your face, stuff like that. Those are all kind of precautions I've been really meticulous about and really thoughtful about when I take care of patients. There have been a couple of deaths in Tennessee. I haven't cared for anyone who's died from it, but it does seem that, I don't know if there's 2 strains. I don't know if there's a weak strain going around, which you kind of get better from within a couple of days, and maybe there's a really bad virulent strain going around. I don't know, but there have been deaths from it. But I don't know if a couple of deaths mandate a rushed vaccine. Does that make sense? I don't know. A couple people dying isn't going to scare me into putting poison into my arm, in my children's arms, And that's one more thing I want to get into before I wrap it up. I want to go into the basically your rights versus martial law and kind of the erosion of your choice on whether you get this vaccine or not. And I get a lot of this information. I think it was it's a 226-page report. It's the Tennessee Department of Pandemic Influenza Response Plan. So this is on I've got it all linked up on my blog, and I've got it written out right here. This is all online. This is for anyone to read. It's out there. Now, most people aren't going to sit down and read the whole report like I did. I'm kind of a nerd, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. But here are some facts. And before I get into that, let me just share one thing from you. you think, in America, you would never be forced to take a vaccine. I mean, this is America, you can refuse something, right? Well, in Maryland, that happened, I think, back in, I think maybe in 07, I might, or maybe 04. I've got it linked up on my blog if you want to look for it. But basically, children were herded into a county courthouse in Prince George. There were armed personnel outside with attack dogs. The children were forcibly vaccinated against their will under orders from the state attorney general. They conspired to threaten parents with imprisonment if they did not submit their children to vaccination. Now, this is in referral to parents who didn't want their children vaccinated with MMR and hepatitis B. Now, if you don't want your children to receive those vaccines, that's fine. That is your right as a parent. I guess the state government could make a law saying if your children don't have those vaccines, then they can't go to public school. Well, then perhaps you should just send them to private school if the laws are different, or perhaps you should homeschool, which is what I would have done if I felt that strong about my children not getting that vaccine. And that is those parents' right not to give their children that if they don't believe in it. Now, I personally think that's silly, and I think those vaccines are safe. But I would never force my will upon someone else. Take someone else's child into a courthouse, forcibly vaccinate them, and have an armed guard outside. That's not America. That is not the Constitution. That's a clear violation of the parents' rights, the child's rights. It's insanity. That